Okay, so I am getting ready to start reassembling the carburetor, the 704. And I just wanted to point out, in addition to the disassembly sequence that I have made available, it's free, you can download it, and it was written for the 1705, but some of the steps are going to apply to other Quadrajets. In addition to that, I also have a reassembly sequence along the same lines, and again, free if you want to download it. I'll provide a link in the description. I've installed a couple of things: the fast idle assembly, the cam, the secondaries lockout lever, and what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to set it up here for now, so I have a good solid base to work on. And let's see, according to my list, install the check ball and screw, which I have here. And this one, like I mentioned, came with the rebuild kit. Let me show you where this one goes exactly. Right here, next to where the power piston goes, between the power piston and the accelerator pump, you have a small threaded hole. And this is where you have to drop the check ball and install the screw. If you're using a screwdriver with a magnetic tip, you can carefully drop the ball in there, and you can see it in place down there. If you want to make sure that the ball is seated properly, what I use is a punch. This one is what, an 1/8? Yes. And you want to place the punch right on top of the valve there. And to seat it, you want to just give it with the punch and hammer. And when that is seated properly, you can proceed to install the screw. So going back to my list here, next we're going to install the primary jets. And again, the purpose of this is to have the list is so you do everything in a certain order and don't leave anything out. So there's one. Just be careful, make sure that they go in easily. And then you just tighten them a little bit. And I like to use the needle nose pliers to drop them in place. Good. So quick look in there. And there they are. You see the check ball screw there installed, and the 2 jets. Going back to the list. The needle seat with its gasket. Gasket? The needle seat with its gasket. And for that we have new parts here from the guys at Quadrajet Power. So you have the little gasket, you have the seat, brand new needle, and most important, if you're going to use it, you can leave this one out, is the needle hanger. And that little clip has to be installed in a certain way. Again, it can be left out because there's going to be enough field pressure in there to push the needle up when needed. So, but I like to put it all back to factory specs. So make sure you don't drop that little clip anywhere. Now, to demonstrate the installation of said clip, let's see how we're going to do this. This is pretty tricky. The top portion is the hanger, and this little loop is where the needle clips into. And all you need to do for that is just position it in there and clip it in place. And that is it. And it'll stay in there. You don't have to worry after that. What I'm going to do next is we have the new needle seat. As you can see, this is the window kind. And again, that's just what they use. And you have the gasket, which is a metal, probably aluminum, soft metal gasket. And these two pieces fit in there. Okay, that hole there. So the gasket will fall into place. And again, just carefully start threading the seat in place. And then what you want to do is get a big, flathead screwdriver so you can carefully, you don't want to mar the surface or anything. You want to start threading this thing in. So take your time and do it right. And just make sure that it's snug. So that we have the seat installed. What we're going to do next is take our needle with its hanger, if you're going to use that. And we have a brand new float. So you have the new float, and then at the end here, where the hanger goes, you have this, and actually this is the hanger, fits like that. Okay. The needle, you see these two holes there? Do not use those for hanging the needle. The needle actually, if you see over here this half moon shape, you want to basically just position the needle and the hanger right there. See? That's how you want that to be. And you have to be really careful with this because you may have to do this a few times. You want to position this carefully over the seat here. Let the needle go in there. And you want this portion here of the hanger to line up with the channels here. Goes in only one way. And then you can drop the float. And that's how it's supposed to look. Once you have everything in place here, you want to push the float up so the needle is fully seated, and then you want to measure. So let me get the right tools for that. When it comes to adjusting the float level, most kits will have all the specs, and what you want to do is find your exact car and model. Okay, so here we have 73 Corvette 350 engine, even the 454, and the float level setting is going to be 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and as you can see, different vehicles, you know, like a 1970 Corvette with a 350 would be a 3/16. For the 73 350 and 454, they're asking for 1/4 inch. Also, most kits will have a little paper, cardboard type of ruler that allows you to use that for the measurements, so you can set the float properly instead of using those paper rulers, which work fine actually. I like to use machinist rulers, which are great. So we were talking about 1/4 of an inch, which is 8/32. And what I like to do is see where that 8/32 is, and then use another ruler, set it right there, and then with a piece of tape I'll secure it to that, so I can use that to measure the height of the float. Okay, so again, with everything, the needle and the float in place, you want to press here so the needle is fully seated, and then just, you know, you have to be gentle. You don't want to press this and apply a ton of force. And as you can see, this one is a little bit high, just by a tiny bit. So this is when a lot of patience is required. You want to basically remove the float and needle. And let me show you here. These have little V-cuts here. And what you want to do, you can either adjust them up or down. In this case, I have to go down just a smidge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use pliers for this. So in order to imagine the bowl, the float. Imagine the float is just sitting like that. So you want it to go down a little bit. Well, what you have to do is carefully, and I use pliers for that, bend it ever so slightly, and then you go back, reinstall it, and measure again. Make sure everything is in place, seated properly, and one more time, you want to make sure the float is up, the needle is fully seated, it still could use a little more adjustments. And we're back here doing another little tweak. The needle goes in first. Make sure the hanger is staying in place. The clip goes in, and that is that. One more time. Fully seated. Ooh, I think I went too far. There's quite a gap there. Whoops. Okay, one more time. Wow. I think I got it this time. Yeah. I think I'm gonna call it good. Wow. So again, having your own little makeshift tool is, I think, crucial to do this, so you can do this properly. Continuing with the assembly, after your float, needle, and hangers are all in place, you want to install this float bowl insert. And again, this is the one that I repaired, so it is being put back into service, and that just drops in there. My instructions here call for a round cavity plastic insert, but that is for the 1705. Again, this is just some general instructions. Again, these are intended for the 1705, but they're helpful so you don't leave anything out. Next, what we're going to do is install the primary metering rods and the power piston. And as you can see, this one is already all assembled, and I made a video specifically about talking about how the hanger should and the needle should be installed. So the power piston has a spring, so the spring has to be there in the hole for it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this insert because this is kind of making things a little bit more difficult than they need to be. So again, use my instructions. Only as a general guide. Once the needles start, or the metering rods start going in, it is time to secure the retainer. You want to use a flathead screwdriver to do this. Push it in as evenly as possible until it is fully seated. There we go. And again, you want the metering rods to be going in the jets properly. Next, we have the gasket. And again, you want to make sure that this is the right one for the job. What you want to do is just kind of has a little slits here so you can open it a little bit. And I think this one, the easiest way to do this is to gently push it down a little bit so it kind of clears the power piston there, and then it drops into place while still everything is, it's not torn or anything. This is a brand new gasket, and there's a couple of locating pins back here. You want to push those in. That is that. Okay, so this is all seated properly, and now you can install the accelerator pump, and might be a good idea to give it a few squirts of WD-40. Does wonders. Okay, so at this point, I believe we are ready for the air horn. So we're ready to install the air horn. Again, just take your time, make sure that it's centered because you have a lot of openings back here. And just a couple of those are going to be for the tubes. From the side of the, and this is where you have to lift, try again, and do it one more time. We we have this rod here, but the only way to install this rod, as you can see, this one has to go in here. Now, you can place it in here, but then it becomes a little tricky to install it from this end. So what you have to do is basically lift the air horn, secure it in place here, as such, and then again very carefully lower the air horn so all the tubes go where they're supposed to go. And again, we're negotiating here with the accelerator pump. So accelerator pump. Why do I have trouble saying accelerator today? So you want to make sure that the rod is properly connected to the air horn and the choke valve here. And also you want the accelerator pump to be properly positioned. Next, we have the 5 shorter air horn screws. WD-40 never hurts. I forgot something. Good thing I thought of it. And of course, this is going to have to come apart again. Do not forget to install the secondaries baffle. A couple little taps here with the hammer, and then the gasket can be put back in place. Okay, that is that. So this is working. This is working. Beautiful. So now we are ready for the air horn screws. And you just want to make them nice and snug. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to torque them down to anything specific or excessive. At this point, I think I'm going to install the choke rod. It has a longer end with a channel for a clip. This one is just very short. You're going to need a flashlight. You're going to have to bring the lever up so you can actually get to it. And then hook it in place, which is easier said than done. And once that's in place, you want to plug it in there. And if everything went according to plan, you will see this working properly. And then you want to insert one of the tiny little clips. Let me find one of those. This is one of I'm going to use one of these. Get a good hold of the clip. Make sure that the clip is fully secure in place. Next, I am going to install the secondary metering rods. These are very simple to connect. They go in like that and like that. And then you carefully want to lower them through the opening, and then we are ready to secure the the secondary rod hanger. For that we have a small screw, and make sure it's snug in place. That's it. Don't overdo it. I think at this point we want to take this thing off the stand very carefully, turn it upside down, install the two, and these are Phillips screws. There's two of them. I give them a little drink of WD-40. Just go in there. And again, make them nice and snug, but do not overdo it. Next, we're going back to the stand here. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and install the fuel filter. Have everything nice and clean, and we have a brand new plastic gasket washer that this gasket, there's a tiny little ridge here on this end of the filter housing, and this gasket just secures in place. And this is very, very important. Always use a new gasket because you don't want any leaks. The kit also comes with a brand new spring, so that goes in there. And should I use the old one? This is the original fuel filter? I don't think so. We're going to install the new one. Yes. Now, some of them have a safety valve. This one does not. But basically, you want to position this. Think of it this way. This is the big fuel filter assembly nut. Fuel is going to be coming in this way into the carburetor. So you want the fuel, of course, to go into the filter and then do its thing. So this one goes in not like this, but like this. This part is going to be pushing against the spring, and you want to get it started, get it snug in there, and then get the right wrench. You can use a crescent wrench for that. And crush that washer that I showed you. Don't overdo it. That's it. That's all that's necessary for that. That is in place and done. Now, as I probably mentioned during the cleaning or disassembly and cleaning process, I removed the idle mixture screws. Clean them nice. They seem to be in perfect condition. So nothing wrong with them. I'm going to put a touch of WD-40. And then these, okay, here's one. Just start by hand. I'll get the other one ready. This one goes on the other side here. Everything is clean, so they should just go right in. Now, one thing that is important, again, you're just pushing them all the way in until they're fully seated. Don't go crazy. You're going to damage them. You don't want to do that. Once they're fully seated, you want to back them out to an, like an average setting. And to do that, these are adjustable, so that's the beauty of it. You're going to turn them out. That is half a turn. That is one turn. 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. 3 turns out. And then for the other side, again, you want to screw it all the way in until it's fully seated. That is it. Don't push it. And then we go back half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 3. And that is your basic setting. From there, once the car is running and all that, you can do your final adjustments. Now we have to finish securing the air horn. And we have these long screws. So again, we're going to just give them a little WD-40. And secure them in place. And one more time, just snug them up. Don't go bananas. That is that. Oh, and let's not forget there's 2 more screws that go in here and here. Needless to say, you don't want to drop anything in there. You can always get stuff out, of course, but don't avoid that headache. Nice and snug. And there you have them. That's all there is to that. Next, we have the curb idle screw. We're going to install it. Get that sucker started. Now mind you, this is going to be like way out here because we're using the, every time you have this, the car off basically, you're using the, oh my goodness, look at this. Look at how I screwed up this thing here. Wow. I wasn't paying attention and I totally screwed that one up. This is going to be tricky because I don't want everything to get disconnected here. So what I'm going to have to do is, while I'm saying a quiet prayer here, loosen this one. See if that's going to give me enough room to move this stop. Wow. Can't believe I did that. Get it back in place. Oh my goodness. That was lucky. We're going to tighten this one back up here, provided nothing got disconnected. Nope, that's good. That's all working properly. Wow. See? And I've done this so many times, and I'm telling you, you'll always find something that comes back and bites you nowhere, you know where. Okay. Whew. So you see there's quite a bit of room there. You don't want to keep tightening this carbidal screw until it meets there, because this is always going to be regulated by the fast idle. And what that fast idle releases, you see that? It touched the screw here at the tip of the screw, right? Now when I let this go, the cam, the fast idle cam, is up again. And you can see, do you see the gap? Now, when I release the fast idle cam, it brings it to curb idle. We can go over those details later. So anyway, if you want to preset it a little bit, you can just get it to touch the curb idle stop, and then give it maybe 2.5 turns. That's all. You know, again, this is just for so you can start the car and it'll idle probably faster than you want it, but that's still it'll stay running. What other parts do we have here? Have this rod and this lever. The rod has this little nub at the very top here. You can feel it. And this portion of the rod with the nub connect to this lever, part of the throttle mechanism. And what you want to do is kind of rotate this a little bit so that little nub goes in the keyway there, and that is how the rod gets connected to the throttle lever. Then we have to connect the lever to the rod. This is very simple. Goes in like that, and then the lever will actuate the pump, and you have to drive the roll pin back through the lever into this boss here. The easiest way to do this is to start gently pushing the pin in with a screwdriver. Make sure that the pin goes into the lever. And once the pin is all the way through, you'll see it right there. And that secures the lever to the carburetor. And what I did off camera, I reinstalled this plug here. Some cars use a direct connection to the intake manifold, which I think is the case of the 73 Corvette. Some use the base plate for the manifold vacuum source for the brake booster. I'm not 100% sure if we're going to need it or not, but if we need to have it plugged, I'm going to use probably some thread sealer just to make sure there's not going to be any vacuum loss there. That is pretty easy. And my friends, the 704 is done. Look at that. Quite a difference. I'm talking about what I started with. And of course, the big test is going to be once we install this in my friend 73, make sure that it runs good while I rebuild his original carburetor, which is pretty much identical. It's the same thing, only it's calibrated for an automatic transmission. This one was calibrated for a manual transmission. And we'll go over all the details on how to adjust idle mixture, carb idle, any other adjustments that need to be made so the car operates properly. And in this case, I left out the idle stop solenoid. I'm not going to be using that. I may use his because he has one. Carburetor looks really, really good. New parts. This is the only thing that is a little bit different than the original, where the port I think used to be here or on the other side, but I can run a line up to here. And yeah, this thing turned out really, really nice. Very proud of how everything is working. Everything is very clean. And now that I fixed that, it's even better. So once it's all done, we're going to be able to really put it through the test and make sure that everything is working as it should. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, please share and let me know what you think. And if you want to rebuild your carburetor, whether it's a 702 or a 704, as in this case, or a 705 or whatever, it is time consuming, it is challenging. Again, I've done several of these and I'm always forgetting something and screwing something up and redoing things, but you can do it. You certainly can do it. Take your time, watch the videos. There's other videos out there, excellent videos on how to do things. And next time, like I mentioned, I'm gonna go over the steps for giving the car a proper tune-up, at least a carburetor portion of it. And we'll see what happens. So thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.